This is one of the world's most expensive weapons.
China has warned the Philippines against purchasing F-16 fighter jets from the US.
What looks like a simple aircraft rotation at a quiet airbase in northern Japan is actually part of a much bigger story. Behind the movement of jets and the change of unit designations is a strategic shift that reaches across the Indo-Pacific, from Northeast Asia to Southeast Asia, and from fifth-generation stealth fighters to legacy aircraft finding new life with key allies. This isn't just about the F-35 replacing the F-16. It's about how air power is evolving, how alliances adapt, and how decisions made at one runway can ripple across an entire region. To understand why Misawa Air Base suddenly matters more than ever, we need to look beyond the aircraft and into the changing nature of modern deterrence. Misawa sits at a crossroads of power in Northeast Asia, within striking distance of the Korean Peninsula, the East China Sea, and the Western Pacific. It's one of the most contested airspaces on the planet. By placing F-35s there, Washington isn't just modernizing, it's reinforcing its front line. This move hardens U.S. air power against two growing pressures at once: China's expanding air and missile forces and North Korea's unpredictable escalation cycle. It's deterrence by dominance, quiet, credible, and technologically overwhelming. And this is where the first domino tips, because F-35s don't just arrive, they push something else out. The F-16s leaving Misawa won't disappear into hangars or scrapyards. They re-enter the global pool of combat-tested fighters, exactly the kind many U.S. allies are searching for. For countries racing to modernize on tight budgets and tighter timelines, that matters. And few nations fit that description better than the Philippines. For the Philippine Air Force, now deep into its Rehorizon 3 modernization phase, the Misawa transition could open a rare and timely door. Manila has been clear about what it needs: multi-role fighters capable of air defense, maritime strike, and seamless operations alongside U.S. forces. Brand new aircraft come with long delivery schedules and political hurdles, but surplus or transferred F-16s, already integrated into U.S. doctrine and regional operations, offer something far more practical: speed, familiarity, and credibility. So, what looks like a quiet basing adjustment in Japan is actually a strategic chain reaction. The U.S. locks in stealth-based air dominance at the front, allies gain access to proven combat platforms, and Southeast Asia, especially the Philippines, may suddenly find itself with a chance to leap forward in air combat capability. In today's Indo-Pacific, there are no truly routine rotations. Every move sends ripples, and this one may end up reshaping air power equations far beyond Misawa's runway. Misawa Air Base has never been just another pin on the U.S. Air Force's global map. Tucked into northeastern Honshu, it sits in a spot that quietly does a lot of heavy lifting. It's close enough to the Korean Peninsula to respond fast if tensions spike, perfectly positioned to watch and challenge activity in the East China Sea, and far enough east to project power deep into the Pacific. Geography alone makes Misawa powerful, and that's exactly why it has stayed so important for so long. For decades, Misawa has been a backbone of U.S. air strategy in Asia. That mission has been carried by 36 F-16CM Block 50 fighters from the 35th Fighter Wing. And make no mistake, these jets are far from outdated. They're battle-tested, precision strike capable, and fully integrated with U.S. and allied forces. But the airspace around them has changed. Today's region is packed with advanced surface-to-air missiles, fifth-generation fighters, and dense sensor networks. In this environment, speed and firepower alone aren't enough. Survival and information dominance now decide who controls the sky. That reality explains the shift coming in spring 2026. Replacing those F-16s with 48 F-35A, Lightning II stealth fighters doesn't just refresh the lineup, it redefines Misawa's role. The base moves from being a forward operating location to becoming a long-term anchor for U.S. fifth-generation air power in Asia. The increase in aircraft is notable, but the real change is what those aircraft can do. With stealth, sensor fusion, and fully networked operations, the F-35 doesn't wait for a fight to start. It shapes the battle before the other side even knows it's happening. U.S. Air Force leaders have been careful in how they describe the transition. They stress continuity, not disruption. During the handover, rotational fighter deployments will prevent any capability gaps, reinforcing what they call a long-standing mission: defending Japan while supporting a free and open Indo-Pacific. That wording isn't accidental. It reassures allies, signals restraint to rivals, and makes one thing clear: this move is about stability, not provocation. On a practical level, Misawa's evolution mirrors the broader reality of modern air power. In the Indo-Pacific, success isn't about who arrives first anymore. It's about who can operate, survive, and coordinate inside the most heavily contested airspace on Earth. By planting fifth-generation fighters at Misawa, the United States is matching geography with technology and quietly reinforcing the air balance across Northeast Asia and beyond. To understand why the shift from F-16s to F-35As matters so much, you have to look beyond the aircraft itself and focus on how air combat has changed. The F-16 Fighting Falcon has been the U.S. Air Force's workhorse for decades. Fast, agile, combat-proven, and endlessly adaptable. It fought wars, deterred adversaries, and defined what a fourth-generation multi-role fighter should be. But the battlefield it was built for no longer exists in the form it once did. The F-35A, Lightning II, was designed for a battlefield where the first shot isn't fired by a pilot pulling a trigger, but by sensors finding a target first. In this new era, survival isn't just about outmaneuvering the enemy. It's about staying invisible long enough to control the fight. Its stealth design drastically reduces its radar signature, letting the F-35 operate deep inside heavily defended airspace where older fighters would be spotted and engaged almost immediately. In regions packed with advanced surface-to-air missiles and modern interceptors, that difference in survivability isn't incremental. It's decisive. Just as game-changing is the F-35's sensor fusion. Instead of forcing pilots to juggle separate radar, targeting, electronic warfare, and external data feeds, the jet pulls everything together into one clean, real-time picture. The result is awareness that borders on information dominance. Pilots don't just see more, they understand what's happening faster than ever before. In a contested Indo-Pacific battle space, that clarity can mean the difference between dictating the fight and scrambling to react. Then there's the networking effect. The F-35 isn't meant to fight alone. It operates as a flying sensor hub, sharing live threat and targeting data with other aircraft, ships, and ground forces, including allied platforms. This turns individual jets into pieces of a much larger kill web, amplifying the effectiveness of both fifth- and fourth-generation aircraft flying alongside them. In real terms, the entire force becomes smarter, not just stealthier. None of this takes away from what the F-16 Fighting Falcon has meant. As Lieutenant Colonel Michael Ress, an F-16 squadron commander transitioning to the F-35A, put it, the Fighting Falcon has been the backbone of the U.S. Air Force for more than 50 years. That legacy still matters. But his takeaway says everything. In today's threat environment, fifth-generation capability isn't a luxury anymore. It's a requirement for decisive air power. Misawa's transition reflects that hard truth and points directly to where regional air dominance is headed next. And the way this transition is unfolding shows just how intentional the shift really is. This isn't a symbolic swap or a short-term rotation. It's a structural upgrade meant to lock in fifth-generation capability for the long term. Under the current plan, the 35th Fighter Wing will gradually phase out its 36 F-16s throughout 2025, maintaining full operational coverage while setting the conditions for a smooth, deliberate handover. Starting in spring 2026, 48 F-35A Lightning II fighters will begin arriving at Misawa Air Base, eventually becoming a permanently stationed force. That number isn't random, and it matters. Going from 36 aircraft to 48 is more than a simple swap of old jets for new ones. It signals a clear expansion in combat capacity and operational depth. More aircraft mean more sorties, longer sustained operations, and greater resilience if a crisis breaks out. In plain terms, Misawa isn't just becoming stealthier, it's becoming more powerful at a time when control of the skies over Northeast Asia is far from guaranteed. From a planning standpoint, the transition is being handled with precision. As the F-16s gradually phase out, rotational fighter units will step in to ensure there's no drop in readiness, no gaps, no weakened deterrence. U.S. defense officials have been careful to describe the move as continuity, not escalation. A necessary modernization driven by a changing threat landscape, not a sudden shift in posture. At the local level, the announcement has naturally sparked concerns, especially about aircraft noise and how the community will adjust. That reaction is nothing new. Similar concerns have followed nearly every major basing change in Japan since the end of World War II. US and Japanese leaders have acknowledged those challenges while pointing to the bigger picture. For planners in Washington and Tokyo, the math is straightforward. Stronger deterrence, improved survivability, and expanded operational reach outweigh the short-term friction that comes with any major force upgrade. Taken together, the details reveal a simple truth. Misawa is being reshaped into a central hub of US air power in the Indo-Pacific, fielding more aircraft, more advanced capabilities, and a long-term mission built for high-end competition. The shift from F-16s to F-35As isn't just about replacing jets. It's about redefining what forward-based air power looks like in an era of great power rivalry. And the F-35A deployment at Misawa can't be viewed in isolation. This move is a direct response to a rapidly changing security picture across the Indo-Pacific. China's Air Force has been modernizing at breakneck speed, rolling out stealthy J-20 fighters and other advanced aircraft that have sharply raised the region's threat level. At the same time, North Korea's missile tests and periodic airspace provocations underline a simple reality. Deterrence only works if it's credible, visible, and positioned forward. Against that backdrop, basing fifth-generation fighters in Japan sends an unmistakable message to allies and potential adversaries alike. The United States is serious about defending its partners and preserving freedom of action in contested skies. U.S. defense leaders have been clear about that dual purpose. The Pentagon describes the F-35 deployment as proof of an ironclad U.S. commitment to Japan and a shared vision of a free and open Indo-Pacific. By placing advanced air power at Misawa, Washington isn't just preparing for worst-case scenarios. It's reassuring treaty allies that stability and deterrence are non-negotiable. But the ripple effects don't stop in Japan. As F-16s rotate out of Misawa, the Philippines suddenly finds itself facing a rare opening to accelerate its Air Force modernization under Rehorizon 3, a sweeping $35 billion defense initiative focused on territorial defense, maritime reach, and aerial deterrence. Right now, the Philippine Air Force operates a limited fleet of 12 F-A-50 light fighter trainers, capable but constrained when it comes to high-end air combat. That gap is driving Manila's push for true multi-role fighters. In April 2025, the U.S. approved a proposed sale of 20 F-16s, 16 single-seat F-16Cs, and 4 twin-seat F-16Ds, all Block 70/72 variants, under a $5.58 billion package that also includes weapons, logistics, and support systems. Philippine officials have been careful to frame the deal as defensive in nature, aimed at strengthening deterrence and improving interoperability with U.S. forces, not provoking confrontation. Lockheed Martin has reinforced that message by pointing to the F-16's unmatched global presence. More than 3,100 aircraft flying in 28 countries, proven, adaptable, and well-suited for Asia-Pacific security demands. The advantages are hard to ignore. Faster delivery than brand-new platforms, immediate gains in combat capability, and seamless integration with allied training, doctrine, and operations. What began as a basing decision in northern Japan is now influencing air power trajectories across Southeast Asia. Proof that in today's Indo-Pacific, even a single deployment can reshape the strategic landscape. That said, real challenges remain. Older aircraft demand serious investment in maintenance, logistics, and base infrastructure. For the Philippine Air Force, that also means expanding pilot training and technical support pipelines to fully unlock what the F-16 can offer. None of this happens overnight. Still, taken together, the U.S. move to deploy F-35s and the potential Philippine acquisition of F-16 significantly strengthen air deterrence across the Indo-Pacific. Misawa becomes a forward anchor for fifth-generation air power. Manila, in turn, gains a credible, multi-role fighter force capable of defending its airspace and safeguarding vital maritime approaches. Just as important, the arrangement tightens alliance integration, boosting interoperability and readiness among Japan, the United States, and Southeast Asian partners, while carefully managing diplomatic sensitivities tied to ongoing territorial tensions with China. The arrival of F-35s at Misawa is far more than a routine equipment upgrade. It reflects a calculated shift in air power posture, one that blends advanced technology, forward positioning, and alliance signaling to reinforce regional deterrence. For the Philippines, the ripple effect could be game-changing. Transferred US F-16s may become a cornerstone of the PAF's Rehorizon 3 modernization plan, deliver stronger defensive and strike capabilities while deepen operational ties with U.S. forces. Together, these moves reinforce the region's security framework, balancing deterrence with cooperation in some of the world's most contested skies. The Misawa deployment and the opportunity it creates for Manila highlight a core truth of modern Indo-Pacific strategy. Modernization and partnerships go hand in hand, and even moves that appear routine can carry outsized geopolitical impact. If you found this breakdown useful, share your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective helps push the discussion forward and sharpen our understanding of the region's shifting dynamics. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive into global security.